Hi, everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we are about to embark on a truly fascinating journey. Today, we're diving deep into a word you hear all the time, but maybe haven't fully unpacked. That word is democracy. Think of me as your guide as we explore the true meaning of people's power. We're going to look at exactly where it comes from, how it actually works, and why it matters so much to every single one of us. All right, let's just dive right into this. We've got to start right here with this incredibly famous catchphrase from former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln: the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Now, we all know those first two parts, right? We elect the leaders, and those leaders come from among us. But I really want you to think deeply about that very last part, for the people. What does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means the entire system only exists for our welfare, not for the benefit of the rulers. If a government stops working for the people, it completely loses its democratic soul. So, here is our game plan for today. We'll start with what democracy actually means, then trace India's ancient democratic roots and break down the key features. After that, we'll look at the different types of systems globally, and finally, wrap up with the modern challenges we are facing.
All right, Section 1, what is democracy? Let's unpack the meaning.
It's actually super interesting when you look at where the word comes from. It goes way back to ancient Athens in the 5th century BCE. It comes from the Greek word demokratia. Demos simply means people, and kratos means power, rule by the people. Back in ancient Athens, the whole of the adult male population could literally just go to the assembly, speak, and vote directly. Wealth didn't matter at all. Now, of course, they excluded women and slaves, so it definitely wasn't perfect, but at its absolute core, democracy is simply this: giving the power directly to the citizens. You are the ultimate authority. Moving on to Section 2, India's ancient democratic roots, a journey back in time. A lot of people think of democracy purely as a Western import, like it was strictly a Greek invention, but that is only half the story. Democratic ideas actually existed in India thousands of years ago. During the Vedic period, we had these assemblies called sabhas and samitis. Kings didn't just rule with absolute power, they actively consulted these bodies. Then, if you jump to between 600 and 400 BCE, we had massive republics called Mahajanapadas, like the Vajis and the Sakyas. Believe it or not, their rulers were chosen through elections and collective decision-making. Even later, during the Gupta period, village sabhas operated independently to manage local affairs and deliver justice. Shared decision-making is literally embedded in our DNA.
A perfect example of one of our oldest surviving institutions that brilliantly illustrates this is the ancient panchayat system. The word panch means 5. This was a council of 5 highly respected elders chosen directly by the community. They would sit together, often under a tree, to settle disputes, make key decisions, and manage everyday village life. It was a localized, incredibly effective form of democratic governance because these leaders were selected by the people and directly responsible to them. And what was driving all of this? A really profound moral foundation. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. This ancient principle was the bedrock of early participatory governance in India. Authority wasn't just about wielding power, it was built on shared humanity, peace, and brotherhood. When you genuinely view your community as an extended family, consultative and fair governance just becomes the natural way to live.
Which brings us to Section 3. Key features of democracy, the machinery of freedom. So is just having an election enough to call a country a democracy? History tells us no. Dictators like Hitler and Mussolini were technically elected at some stage. To truly be a democracy, a country needs specific machinery. Here are the absolute core pillars. First off, elections must be free, fair, and regular, meaning the people currently in power must have a genuine chance of losing. Second, final decisions have to be made by those elected representatives, not by military generals operating behind the scenes. Third is the rule of law. Nobody is above the law, and there has to be a completely independent judiciary to enforce it. And finally, freedoms. You need freedom of expression, freedom to form associations, and freedom to practice your own culture and religion. Without these pillars, a system might hold a vote, but it is definitely not a democracy. Now, think about who actually gets to run this machinery. Today, 18 is the crucial number. India has always believed in universal adult franchise, which means every adult citizen gets one vote and every single vote has equal value. But fun fact, it wasn't always 18. From 1950, the voting age was actually 21. It wasn't until the 61st Constitutional Amendment in 1988 that it was reduced to 18, officially expanding the ultimate democratic power to millions of younger citizens practically overnight. Another vital tool in our modern democratic machinery is the Right to Information Act, which was passed in 2005. True democracy demands accountability, and the RTI Act was a massive expansion of power for the common citizen. It means that you, me, literally anyone can legally question public authorities and demand answers. To put that into perspective, over 4,800 RTI applications are filed every single day in India. It forces genuine transparency into the system. All right, Section 4, Types of Democratic Systems. How do we govern? Broadly speaking, we have two main ways to do this: direct democracy and representative democracy. In ancient Athens, they used direct democracy. Everyone just gathered in the town square to debate and vote on every single law. But imagine trying to do that today in India. Just picture trying to get 1.4 billion people into one giant meeting room to debate a tax policy. It would be absolute chaos. Direct democracy is practically impossible for vast modern nations. And that is exactly why we use representative democracy. We choose leaders to speak and make laws on our behalf, but remember, the ultimate authority still rests entirely with us, the voters. Now, even within representative democracies, there are different models. The two major ones are the parliamentary system and the presidential system. In a parliamentary system, like the one we have in India or in the UK, the executive branch, meaning the prime minister and their ministers, are actually part of the legislature. They can only stay in power as long as they maintain the confidence of the majority in the parliament. They are directly accountable to it. But in a presidential system, like in the USA, there's a very strict separation of powers. The president is elected separately and is completely independent of the legislature. So it's two different ways of organizing power, but both are democratic. In India, our specific system is anchored by this magnificent structure, the Sansad Bhavan, our new parliament house. This building is literally the physical embodiment of India's representative parliamentary democracy. It houses our bicameral legislature, which consists of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. This is the exact place where those individuals we elect come together to debate issues, pass laws, and hold the government accountable on our behalf. Sometimes, to really appreciate what we have to look at the alternatives. Dictatorships, whether under historical figures like Idi Amin or Saddam Hussein, concentrate all the power in the hands of one single person or a military group. There is absolutely zero accountability. They actively suppress opposition, often violently, and the ordinary citizen has absolutely no say in how they are governed. The contrast with democracy really couldn't be starker. And finally, Section 5, Challenges we face today. The road ahead. Okay, let's take a step back and be completely honest here. While we've spent a lot of time celebrating democracy, is it truly perfect? The short answer, absolutely not. It is a constantly evolving system. It's built by humans, and, well, humans make mistakes. We face some very serious hurdles on the road ahead. Let's look at the critical issues objectively. First up, economic inequality. The widening gap between the rich and the poor is incredibly dangerous because it allows wealthy individuals and huge corporations to have an outsized influence over policymakers. And that leads right into the second point, the massive growing influence of money in election campaigns. Think about it. If you need millions of dollars to run for office, whose interests are you really going to serve once you're elected? Add to that the everyday corruption, inefficiency, and negligence by officials. What happens? Voter apathy. People start feeling like their vote doesn't even matter, and they lose faith in the very institutions that were designed to protect them. But, hey, before we get completely overwhelmed by the negatives, check out this incredibly insightful quote from Winston Churchill. Democracy is the worst form of government, except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. It's brilliant, isn't it? Democracy cannot magically solve every single problem overnight, especially in a massive, beautifully diverse country like India. But despite its messy nature and despite the corruption we constantly have to fight against, its core values of freedom, equality, and justice make it far, far superior to any monarchy or dictatorship out there. So here is what it all boils down to, and I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Democracy gives us the ultimate power. The system is entirely in our hands. But are we actually using our vote wisely? Are we looking past the loud, flashy campaigns and the big money to elect leaders who have actual integrity, real commitment, and genuine ability? The machinery of freedom is yours to operate. It's totally up to you to ensure it actually works for the people. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.